The lights burned white-hot over the stage as the countdown began. 5, 4, 3, the red, on-air, sign flared, and millions of Americans leaned closer to their screens. Election day was over, chaos lingered. In the center seat sat Donald Trump, jaw locked, fingers drumming on the table. To his left, calm and silent, Denzel Washington. No entourage, no notes. Just that stare, steady, unreadable. The host, voice trembling with practiced composure, spoke first. Mr. Trump, tonight America wants answers. The markets are sliding, and national debt has crossed 38 trillion. What's your response? Trump leaned toward the mic, fake panic. The economy was strong under me. Now it's a disaster because people like him. He jabbed a finger toward Denzel. Keep talking about problems they don't understand. The studio's air tightened. Denzel didn't move. His calm cut through the tension like glass through smoke. With respect, Mr. Trump, he said slowly, some of us don't need spreadsheets to see reality. We see it at gas stations, in grocery lines, in homes where a father works 2 jobs and still can't pay rent. The host tried to shift the tone, but the clash had already ignited. Cameras zoomed in, social media feeds exploded. Trump scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. You're an actor, Denzel. Play your part. Leave the country to people who actually built it. Denzel's gaze didn't flinch. Actors perform, he said softly. Leaders serve. You stopped doing that a long time ago. A ripple ran through the audience. The host blinked, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let history happen. Trump leaned forward, voice rising. You think you can lecture me on leadership? Denzel, still motionless, replied, No, sir. I'm not lecturing. I'm reminding. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, the kind that breaks before something explodes. The studio lights pulsed as if they could feel the tension climbing. The host forced a smile. Gentlemen, let's. Trump cut him off. No, let's talk about this debt nonsense everyone's crying about. He slammed his palm on the desk. 38 trillion, 40, 50, who cares? America's a business, and I'm the only one who ever ran it like one. Gasps rippled through the audience. Denzel didn't even blink. He leaned slightly toward the mic, voice calm enough to make the air around him colder. If America's a business, he said, then tell me, Mr. Trump, what kind of CEO bankrupts it twice and still blames the janitor? A low "oh" rose from the crowd. Trump's face reddened, his mouth tightening into a smirk that couldn't hide the flicker in his eyes. You're talking tough, Hollywood boy. You don't know what real failure looks like. Denzel tilted his head. You're right. I only know what accountability looks like, and I don't see any of it here. The moderator tried again. Please, let's. No, Trump barked. This country's problem is drama. People want handouts, not hard work. They don't need speeches, they need to stop whining. Denzel's tone didn't rise, it sank, heavier, slower. You call it whining when people can't afford insulin. You call it drama when veterans live in their cars. But let me ask you something, Mr. Trump, when a child goes hungry in the richest country on earth, whose fault is that? The parent? Or the policy? The crowd went silent. Somewhere, a producer whispered, keep rolling. Trump leaned back, laughing too loudly. This is why politics is broken. Too many feelings, not enough facts. Denzel smiled, the kind of smile that didn't comfort. Facts built the bridge you're standing on, he said quietly. It's empathy that keeps it from burning. The host blinked again, the feed live, unstoppable. And America, watching from living rooms, airports, phones, could feel it. Something bigger than politics had entered the room. Trump's face flushed the color of a warning light. You know what, Denzel, he snapped, pointing across the table. You sit there with your calm little Hollywood act, pretending you know what the real world looks like. You don't. You never had to make payroll. You never had to build anything. The host glanced at the producer booth. No one dared cut to commercial. This was the show now. Denzel sat back, eyes steady, hands folded. You're right, he said softly. I didn't build casinos that went bankrupt. I didn't build walls that never stood. But I've built something you can't fake. Trump leaned forward, sneering. What's that supposed to mean? Trust, Denzel said. Respect. You lose those, you lose the country. The audience murmured. A woman in the front row clapped once, just once, and the sound cut through the room like a gunshot. Trump glared at her. Who brought the fan club? Denzel didn't move. That's not a fan, he said. That's a voter. The kind of person you forgot exists. The tension snapped. Trump pounded the desk again. Don't lecture me. You think you're some kind of hero because you make speeches about poor people? Try running a nation instead of a movie set. Denzel's voice didn't rise. It dropped lower, colder. A nation isn't a movie set, Mr. Trump, but you've been playing a role so long, you've forgotten where the performance ends. For the first time, Trump didn't reply. His lips parted, but nothing came out. The host looked between them, frozen. Then Denzel turned to the camera. America's drowning in debt, not just money, debt of truth. Debt of compassion, debt of leadership. He paused. And if we keep pretending pride will pay the bills, we're all bankrupt. The studio was silent. No music, no outro. Just that one sentence hanging like smoke. Online, the clip spread before the commercial even rolled. Hashtags erupted. Hashtag Denzel's Trump trended within minutes. The red on-air light finally died, but the energy didn't. The studio hummed with aftershock. Producers yelling into headsets, interns sprinting between cameras, a security guard pretending not to stare at Trump storming off stage. His mic still dangled from his jacket, the cord dragging like a tail. Denzel stayed seated, calm, still. A single makeup artist approached timidly. Mr. Washington, that was. He raised a hand gently. Don't say it, he murmured. It's not over yet. From the corner, a producer hissed, phones off, everyone. We're trending, it's chaos out there, but it was already too late. Clips flooded Twitter, TikTok, X, the moment Denzel said you've forgotten where the performance ends looped like scripture. Memes, reaction videos, think pieces, they bloomed in real time. In the hallway, Trump's voice echoed through the door. Rigged. Totally rigged. That actor ambushed me on national TV. His campaign manager followed, whispering damage control like a prayer. Denzel rose slowly, buttoning his blazer. He looked at the cameras being powered down one by one, the glow fading like a dying fire. Funny, he said to no one in particular, he still thinks the audience is the enemy. The host hurried over, voice trembling. Denzel, listen, I didn't know he'd go that far. It wasn't planned. Denzel smiled faintly. Neither was the truth. He walked toward the exit, every step measured, precise, the opposite of chaos. Behind him, Trump's rant still thundered through the corridor. Ahead, a wall of reporters waited like wolves. Microphones extended, flashbulbs firing. Mr. Washington. Do you think you humiliated the former president? Denzel paused at the doorway. No, he said quietly. I think he did that himself. The room erupted in shouts, but Denzel kept walking, the hallway light falling across his face like the calm before another storm. And outside, the internet was already writing the next chapter, one headline at a time. By sunrise, America had split in two. News anchors replayed the clip like a national confession, Denzel's calm, Trump's fury, the line that silenced the room. You've forgotten where the performance ends. It became more than a sentence, it became a mirror. Cable panels went to war. On Fox, a guest barked, this was a setup, Hollywood versus hardworking America. On MSNBC, a commentator whispered, it wasn't an ambush. It was accountability, live, unfiltered. Within hours, the clip had hit 50 million views. Some called it the moment truth finally spoke. Others, the beginning of another civil storm. Hashtags bloomed like wildfires, hashtag Denzel moment, hashtag truth live, hashtag Trump meltdown. In New York, protesters gathered outside media towers, half chanting Trump's name, half holding signs that read, "Respect isn't politics." Across the country, truck stops and cafes buzzed with argument, the line between entertainment and leadership suddenly razor-thin. At a morning briefing, one White House aide muttered to another, "We've lost control of the narrative." The reply came cold. "No. We've just met someone who doesn't play by it." Meanwhile, Denzel stayed silent. No tweets. No interviews. Just absence, and in that silence, the country filled the gaps with meaning. Talk shows invited psychologists, theologians, and retired generals to decode the moment. "He didn't raise his voice," one said. "That's what scared people." A late-night comedian joked, "For once, Trump didn't walk out of a debate, the debate walked out of him." The audience laughed, but the truth hung heavy. In living rooms across America, people replayed the clip again, not for drama, but for dignity. For the rare feeling that someone had finally said what they'd been screaming inside for years. And in that collective exhale, a cultural shift began, small, invisible, unstoppable. 2 days later, the silence cracked. Trump resurfaced, not humbled, but loaded. At a packed press conference in Mar-a-Lago, he slammed the podium like a man swatting ghosts. The media loved it, he barked. They turned a simple debate into a witch hunt. That actor? He doesn't speak for America. He speaks for Hollywood. Cameras flashed like lightning. Behind the scenes, his team was in full damage control mode. "We need a comeback," one aide muttered. "Go on air. Own it." Trump smirked. "Perfect. I'll call him out, live." An hour later, his post went up on Truth Social. "Denzel Washington wants a debate? Let's do it. No scripts. No edits. Let's see how calm he stays then." The internet erupted. News outlets exploded with headlines, "Trump challenges Denzel to live showdown." Comment sections turned into digital battlefields. One tweet read, "He really wants a sequel to his own humiliation?" Another, "Denzel doesn't argue. He ends arguments." At that same hour, in a quiet LA studio, Denzel was reviewing a script when his assistant handed him a phone. "You've seen this?" Denzel scrolled once, twice, stopped. A slow grin. "He still thinks this is about volume." "Should we respond?" the assistant asked. "No," Denzel said, setting the phone down. Silence speaks louder when they're screaming. That single quote, when leaked to the press hours later, detonated across the internet. #Silence Speaks Louder shot to the top of global trends. And while Trump's team scrambled for airtime, something unexpected happened. Wall Street analysts, journalists, and even pastors started referencing Denzel's line about debt beyond money. It was no longer just entertainment, it was commentary, philosophy, a mirror America couldn't look away from. The stage wasn't just political anymore. It was cultural, and Denzel owned it without saying another word. By Friday morning, CNN had announced it, Denzel Washington to appear live tonight on Anderson Cooper 360. The network servers crashed twice in the first hour from the surge of anticipation. America wasn't tuning in for entertainment, it was tuning in for clarity. Backstage, Denzel stood in a simple charcoal suit, no entourage, no rehearsed talking points. A producer whispered, "They'll try to bait you into reacting. Ratings, you know." He smiled faintly. "Then they'll be disappointed." When the red light blinked on, Cooper leaned forward. "Mr. Washington, millions are calling you the voice of reason in a time of chaos. Do you see yourself that way?" Denzel paused, gaze steady. "No. I see myself as someone who listens before speaking, something we've forgotten how to do." Cooper nodded, then shifted. "But when you told the former president, you've forgotten where the performance ends, you struck a nerve. Were you calling him a fraud?" Denzel didn't flinch. "I was calling out a pattern. When leadership becomes theater, people stop being citizens and start being an audience. And right now, America's watching its own slow collapse like it's a movie. Silence. Even Cooper blinked slower. Do you blame Trump for that collapse? Denzel leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. I don't blame one man. I blame every man who sold truth for applause. Across the country, people stopped scrolling. The clip hit the internet before the interview even ended. TikTok edits, YouTube shorts, late-night recaps, the moment was everywhere. Meanwhile, markets trembled. Debt numbers flashed across screens, newscasters gasped at another trillion added overnight. The crisis wasn't just financial anymore, it was moral. And in that silence between questions, America felt something strange, not outrage, not hope, recognition. Because for the first time in years, someone had said it without shouting. By Sunday morning, it wasn't just social media, it was the streets. From Chicago to Atlanta, from Los Angeles to Detroit, crowds gathered holding handwritten signs with a single line, "Silence speaks louder." Some stood in prayer, others in defiance. The air buzzed with something that wasn't anger, it was exhaustion turned into purpose. Drone footage flooded the evening news, highways filled with people walking shoulder to shoulder, waving American flags upside down, not in hatred, but as a distress call. A CNN anchor whispered live, "We haven't seen unity like this in decades, and it's not about parties anymore." In D.C., the White House blinds stayed closed. Inside, advisors whispered over coffee-stained folders. "He's not a politician," one said. "We can't attack him the usual way." Another muttered, "Then make him one. If he speaks like a leader, we'll treat him like a threat." Meanwhile, in South LA, Denzel drove through his old neighborhood quietly. Kids ran past murals, one already painted overnight, showing his calm face under the words, "Listen before you speak." He pulled over, rolled down the window, and watched. No interviews. No entourage. Just people, his people, reclaiming their voice. On the radio, a host declared, for the first time, silence isn't compliance. It's resistance. The statement hit like thunder. By evening, protests reached the Capitol steps. The crowd didn't chant. They just stood, thousands of them, in total, deafening quiet. Phones lit the air like candles. Up in the press gallery, a reporter whispered, "They're not shouting his name." "No," another replied. "They're living it." Inside, cameras caught Denzel watching the live feed alone in his hotel room. No applause, no victory speech, just the weight of understanding what he'd started. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, "Now they're listening." And America, broken, brilliant, and finally aware, held its breath. It happened on a Monday night, prime time. Every network cut to it. The Chiron read, "Trump vs. Denzel, the return." Ratings shattered records before the first word was spoken. Trump walked onto the stage first, grinning too wide. The audience clapped, polite, nervous. Then Denzel entered, steady, quiet, like gravity itself. No entourage. No script. Just presence. The moderator tried to speak, but Trump jumped in. "Last time," he barked, "you made a fool of me on national TV. Congratulations. But this time, we're going to talk about facts, not feelings." Denzel sat down slowly. "Facts are good," he said. "Let's start with one, America's debt just passed $39 trillion. Trump laughed. "You keep saying debt like it's real money. It's not. We can print our way out of anything." The audience murmured. Denzel didn't move. "You can't print trust. You can't print leadership." Trump rolled his eyes. "Here we go again with the movie lines." Denzel leaned forward, voice low, cutting through the air like a whisper with weight. "No, Mr. Trump. This isn't a movie. But you've been acting so long, you can't tell the difference." The room froze. Even the cameras seemed to stop breathing. Trump opened his mouth, then closed it again. Denzel continued, his tone surgical. You say America is a business. I say it's a promise, one you keep breaking every time you choose ego over empathy. The moderator tried to interject, but the silence drowned her out. Denzel looked straight at Trump. You wanted a rematch? Here it is. You win elections with noise. But you lose nations with it too. The audience didn't cheer. They stood. One by one. Trump's smirk faltered, and for the first time, he looked small. Denzel leaned back, hands folded. I told you before, I'm not being small. I'm being clear. And in that instant, the country watching didn't see an actor or a politician. They saw something America hadn't seen in a long time, accountability, unshaken and unafraid. When the cameras cut and the red on-air light died, no one moved. The studio felt like a church after a sermon that had gone too deep. Trump stormed off stage without looking back, his team trailing like ghosts. The sound of his footsteps faded into nothing. Denzel stayed seated. Hands folded. Breathing steady. The moderator, pale and wide-eyed, whispered that wasn't an interview. He turned slightly, his voice soft enough to make everyone lean closer. No. That was a mirror. Backstage, producers replayed the clip in disbelief. The network's feed servers crashed again. Hashtags reignited instantly, hashtag not small, hashtag the mirror moment, hashtag Denzel speaks for us. Across America, people stopped what they were doing, diners, bus stations, classrooms, late-night taxis. Some didn't even know why they were tearing up. It wasn't politics anymore. It was something older, deeper, a collective exhale after years of shouting into the void. The next morning, newspapers didn't run headlines about scandal or insults. They ran a quote. Just one line. You win elections with noise. But you lose nations with it too. Denzel refused interviews. He declined late-night invites, turned down podcasts, vanished from the talk circuit. Instead, he returned to his quiet rhythm, community centers, youth programs, schools. Let them argue, he said once to his assistant. We'll keep building. In Los Angeles, a mural appeared overnight, Denzel sitting calmly under storm clouds, with one phrase painted in gold. Clarity is louder than chaos. By the weekend, college students were quoting him in speeches. Teachers played the debate in civics class. Ministers opened sermons with his words. And though the news cycle moved on, new scandals, new noise, something had shifted. Denzel had walked into a storm and left the country in reflection. He hadn't shouted. He hadn't demanded. He had simply reminded America of its echo. In a country drowning in noise, one man chose silence. Not weakness, wisdom. When words lost their weight, he spoke truth that didn't need to shout. Because real power isn't loud. It's steady. It's calm. It's the kind that doesn't demand attention, it earns it.